Welcome to the Daily Insider here on VegasInsider.com for Tuesday, March 16th, 2021. Kevin Rogers with you as we take a look more at the March Madness brackets. We're creeping closer towards the start of March Madness. It begins Thursday with the first four, and then coming up on Friday and Saturday, the first round games, and Sunday and Monday, the second round games. So we'll be quickly into the Sweet 16 by next week, but a lot of games to look at over the next few days. Also, we'll look at the NBA from last night, and the Lakers destroy the Warriors that one day after Golden State beat Utah at home, and then LeBron and the Lakers went into San Francisco and beat up on Steph Curry and Golden State. So we'll talk about that and look ahead to tonight's slate as well. And we have some NHL to go over. Also, we have free picks to give out today for the NBA and for the NHL. So let's get right to it with March Madness. And let's take a look at the bracket as a couple games to focus on here. We're going to have some best bet videos come out later this week. And in case you don't see them, I'm not going to give you the whole tease. I'm just going to tell you at least some of the games that I like since you've tuned in here to the live stream. And one of them in the South region is Purdue taking on North Texas. That is the 4-13 game right over here. And Purdue, when you look at what they've done this season, that it feels like they were under the radar inside the Big Ten, that they were behind the likes of Michigan and Illinois and Ohio State and Iowa. So already the fifth team in the Big Ten when you think about the first four and what they've done. And they play North Texas in the first round. Now, we're going to look at what Purdue has done this season, okay? So you have some kind of idea as far as, you know, what they've done from a win-loss standpoint. Look at this close for Purdue. They won their final, they won, 5 in a row before losing to Ohio State in overtime. And they covered all of these games. They were laying 7.5 Nebraska. I know they're not very good. Laying 7 to Indiana, who just fired Archie Miller. They didn't cover this game against Northwestern. But some of the wins that Purdue had this season, that they beat Michigan State on the road. I know Michigan State was shaky at times. They won at Ohio State. All right, they lose to Minnesota. They lose to Maryland. Lose to Minnesota. Lose to them on the road. They beat them at home. But I just look at this Purdue team as being better than a lot of people think. And they're playing North Texas, who, out of Conference USA, is a very good team. All right, so let's not take anything away from North Texas. They go 4-0 in the Conference USA tournament. They beat Middle Tennessee State, who is not very good. Old Dominion by 6. They beat Louisiana Tech in overtime and Western Kentucky. Look at the point totals they allowed in those games. 56, 55, 48, and 57. So North Texas is not going to play high-scoring games. As you see, even in the games they win, they're not scoring a lot of points. I mean, we'll take away the LSU-Alexandria game here. They scored 110 back in December. And even these games, they dropped 81 on Arkansas Pine Bluff and 85 on Houston Baptist. Against, I don't say normal opponents, but against teams more on their level, they're not scoring a lot of points. Now, in non-conference, North Texas faced the likes of Arkansas, lost by 15, Mississippi State lost by 6, West Virginia lost by 12. So they did play some good competition outside of their conference, but Purdue, I just believe that they have been tested all season long. I mean, they blew this game to Miami. They were a big, that was the ACC Big Ten Challenge. But here's another one. They beat Ohio State, laying 6.5 in mid-December. We forget about those games back in December and more think of what we saw recently. I just think Purdue is a really good look in that first game against North Texas, laying 7.5. So there's one that I do like. Now, another game I want to focus on, I talked about this on the live stream with Tom Cunningham the last few days. We had the brackets released on Sunday, and also we discussed a little more on Monday. The 6-11 game here in the Midwest, San Diego State and Syracuse, you see right here, that, again, you can't depend on trends all the time. You can't do it because you're going to get stuck in them. And you say, is it coincidence? Is this reality? What is it? The last 7 Mountain West tournament champions lost in the first round of the tournament. And San Diego State is in that spot. They won the Mountain West. They beat Utah State, who they lost to earlier this season twice. So they got some revenge. They play Syracuse in the first round. Now, I had mentioned that maybe you look at Syracuse, but digging deeper into the numbers with Syracuse, 1-7 straight up this season as an underdog away from the Carrier Dome. Now, I can't say on the road because that includes playing in the ACC tournament, but 1-7 as an underdog in or away from the Carrier Dome. Now, I want to show you these games that they lost, all right? And they're getting just 3 here, and this line has shot up a little bit. All right, so Syracuse. All right, so what they've done is losing to Virginia at the buzzer, getting 5. Losing at Georgia Tech by 7. Losing at Duke by 14. Losing at Clemson by 17. Losing at Virginia by 13. Losing at North Carolina by 6. Losing at Rutgers by 10. So for the exception of this last Virginia game, they lost at the buzzer, which Virginia was pulled away to cover before Syracuse hit a few shots in the last minute to make it closer and tie the game. Syracuse wasn't good in these spots. And I know that people want to go to Boeheim and what he's done in the tournament, even though Syracuse has just won national championship because they had the best player in the country in Carmelo Anthony nearly 20 years ago. That was 2003. And he went on a tremendous run in that tournament to carry Syracuse. But they go deep sometimes. They get knocked out when they're high seeds. I feel like Syracuse and Michigan State are kind of similar, that when they're expected to do nothing, they end up making a run. When they're like a 2 seed, they lose in the first round. That always happens with them. But seeing what they did, and at least looking at their most recent work, Syracuse, they beat NC State, who fell short of the tournament. They beat Clemson, who's in the tournament, but I don't think they're that great. Beat Carolina at home, beat Notre Dame, who was a disappointment, beat Boston College, who wasn't good, won at NC State. That's the only win as an underdog away from the Carrier Dome. I said, what did I say, 1-8, 1-7, 1-8. This was the only win. Beat NC State again, beat Virginia Tech, beat Miami. Georgetown, this is unfair. Well, they didn't cover laying 10, but Georgetown wasn't supposed to be that good this year, and they went on a run to win the Big East. And we'll get to them more in a second. So I just don't look at Syracuse being that they're good, but San Diego State still won their conference. And San Diego State, the Mountain West, is not the ACC. We all know that. But also, how good was the ACC this year, if you really think about it? Georgia Tech won the conference. Georgia Tech's decent. Virginia was down. I mean, they're still good, but they weren't what they were. They're not elite. Duke was down. North Carolina had a slow start. They came back towards the end. Florida State's still good. They stumbled towards the end. I don't know. I'm just not buying the ACC is so dominant, like what the Big Ten had at the top, what the Big 12 has at the top. So I think that laying 3 for San Diego State is worth a look against Syracuse in the Midwest. Now, another game that I like in the East, and I'm going to die on this sword, is Colorado against Georgetown. Colorado laying 5 against the Hoyas. Let's look at Colorado's schedule and what they've done. Because Colorado, I know, has had some slip-ups. All right? Colorado lost at the end to Oregon State, who's the hottest team in the Pac-12 right now. Before that, they won 6 straight. This is a bad loss. This one's kind of unforgivable, losing at Cal laying 10. Lost at Oregon laying 3. Lost to Utah at home. They were up, I think, 17 in the second half. Utah rallied past them. Losing to Washington, that's bad. There are bad losses on Colorado's schedule. You cannot deny that. But let's look at the wins. All right, and they lost to Tennessee here. Looking at the wins. Won at USC. Beat Oregon at home. Handled Oregon State. Arizona, who had the self-imposed penalties, they did not go to the tournament or the Pac-12 tournament. Beat USC, beat UCLA, beat USC 3 times. Yeah, there's some real scars on Colorado's resume, but also they have good wins as well. For Georgetown, I don't want to say, well, look, they lost to Navy. Okay, it's early December. I don't want to get on them for that. That's not fair. They go on this run here, 4 straight wins as an underdog in the Big East tournament. They beat up Marquette. Marquette was terrible in that game. Good win against Villanova, top seed. Beat Seton Hall, who was terrible over the last few weeks. And look, they beat Creighton by 25. It's an 8.5-point dog. I can't take away from them there. But even in the losses for Georgetown, all right, so they're winning these games as a dog. Lost by 16 to UConn, by 13 to UConn, by 15 to Creighton, by 10 to Villanova. Lost here by 5 to Syracuse. Lost by 8 to Butler. Lost by 11 to Seton Hall, 11 to St. John's, 13 to Villanova, 9 to West Virginia. Not a lot of close losses on Georgetown's resume. So if you're going to lay the 5, I don't think you should be afraid of it. Don't take Georgetown because you think they're going to cover 5. Take Georgetown because you think they're going to beat Colorado. The numbers say Georgetown loses, they're losing by double digits. And if they pull off the upset, look, now let's look at the underdog wins they have outright. 4 in the Big East tournament, 5 against Xavier, 6 against Seton Hall, 7 against Creighton. All right, so 7 outright wins as a dog, and the covers they got in losses, 14-point dog to Villanova. That's it. 10-point dog to Syracuse, 4.5 to Marquette. Okay, there's one close one. And they were up big in that one. Fine. So you get 1 out of all of them. You have all of these losses by 8 or more for the most part. And I can't see where Georgetown beats Colorado. I really can't. And you'd say, why can't you see? I don't see it. I think Colorado beats them handily. The other one that I like, maybe this is more of a public dog, but I do like Oregon State against Tennessee here in the Midwest, this 5-12 matchup. I had some numbers written down, so I might as well tell you them. All right. Oregon State, 10-1 ATS run for the Beavers. 8-2 against the spread, their last 10 as a dog of 6 or more. So Oregon State is on this fantastic ATS run over the last few months. I mean, look at all these covers they have. Lose to Oregon to close out the regular season. Beat UCLA, beat Oregon, beat Colorado in the Pac-12 tournament. 1 at Utah, 1 at Stanford. Actually, they didn't play that great in this Cal game. They were down early and had to rally past Cal, who's not very good. Lost to Colorado, beat up Utah, lost by 2 to Arizona State, lost by 9 to Arizona. Arizona had chances to cover that game. I remember because I had Arizona in that game. This is probably the only really bad loss they've had, and that's to Colorado on the road. Losing by 5 to UCLA. They got blown out here at home by Arizona. But not worrying about, look, they lost to Portland here, laying 16 back in December. They lost to Wyoming, laying 8.5. We can't focus on those. We got to look at most recent history for Oregon State. A lot of high-scoring games, too, but they're covering a lot. Now, Tennessee, let's look at the start. Beat Colorado, beat Cincinnati. 1 at Missouri, that SEC opener, 1 by 20, laying 4. But then after that, it kind of fell off. Lose to Alabama at home, but we didn't realize Alabama was going to be as good as they were. Okay, it was like, oh, well, I mean, they're laying 10 in that one. So think about that for a second. Don't cover against Arkansas, but then you beat Texas A&M, lose to Florida, blowout fashion in Gainesville, lose to Missouri at home, laying 8.5, beat Miss State by 3, beat Kansas, all right, that's a good win, losing at Ole Miss, beating a bad Kentucky team, beating a bad Georgia team, losing at LSU, beating a bad South Carolina team, losing to a bad Kentucky team, beating a bad Vandy team, losing to a bad Auburn team, beat Florida twice, and then lost to Alabama. Not a lot of convincing victories there for Tennessee and Rick Barnes. And laying a lot of points, lost to Auburn, barely covered against Vandy, lost to Kentucky, covered against South Carolina, didn't cover against Georgia, lost outright to Florida and Missouri, didn't cover against Mississippi State, didn't cover against Alabama and lost, didn't cover against Arkansas. I can't go the opposite route and think that Tennessee is going to just magically cover. Tennessee is going backwards. Oregon State's going the right way. So I'm going to look at Oregon State in that one. We will tomorrow look at the first four. And I dug up some stuff on UCLA, which I found pretty interesting. Drake, Wichita State. That is going to be a fantastic game. Even though Wichita State, past beating Houston, there's not a lot on their resume. So that's the look at college basketball. If you see our college basketball arena, great job. Tom Cunningham has kind of run the show on that one and putting all the stuff up. Props to bet. First four matchups here: Drake, Wichita State, UCLA, Michigan State, Texas Southern, Mount St. Mary's, App State, Norfolk State. Trends, best bets for props, regional best bets, favorites and sleepers. You have all of that in the brackets, of course, you could find. First four best bets here with Tom. So go to our college basketball arena and you can find pretty much everything you need for March Madness in the tournament. Now let's look at the NBA from last night. Since we've hit on a lot of college basketball the last few days, and we really haven't given a lot of concentration to the NBA, so let's do that. Milwaukee wins from last night, we're talking about, and then we'll look ahead to tonight. Milwaukee wins the back end of that two-game series with Washington, 133-122. So the Bucks get a cover there, laying 8.5, 244.5 total, and still goes over 255. But what do you need to go over 244.5? You need to get a 69, a 70. You only have 55 in the first quarter. You get a 61 in the fourth. You just need 60s, and then you're in good shape. This Sacramento Kings team is really interesting because they keep taking these leads early. That happened at Atlanta on Saturday. Took a lead early, had a terrible second quarter, got blown out. Last night, they only lose by 6, but you're up 6 at the half. I know it's not a great advantage, but Charlotte outscores them by 11 in the fourth quarter. So they beat Sacramento twice over the last few weeks. They come back and beat them, and that game stays under 238, or 240 rather, 238. Last time they played was 236.5, went way over, so they adjusted the total up to 240, barely stays under. Charlotte's won 4 straight, and now they go on this road trip. These first 3, not easy. Nuggets and Lakers on a back-to-back, then the Clippers. San Antonio's dinged up now. Houston's terrible. So Charlotte, who had a 3-3 road swing here, and oh, by the way, 6 straight overs on that road trip, and they are on a 9-0 over run on the road. So Charlotte, keep an eye on them for an over, possibly against the Nuggets. The Nets beat the Knicks 117-112. So second straight ATS loss for the Nets after they failed to cover against the Pistons the other night. And New York came back. I mean, they were down double digits in this game, and they had a shot there. And I don't know if you saw the end of that game. Julius Randle of the Knicks, he went up for a game-tying 3. Kyrie Irving got a piece of the ball. And Randle, as he went up, he came back down with the ball. They called a travel. On the replay, you could see that Kyrie touched the ball. But what I don't understand with Julius Randle is why he didn't maybe try to let the ball go. So then at least he could have picked it back up or passed it or done something and not leave it in the official's hands. And he went nuts after the game because they called the travel on him, and the Nets hit a few free throws to win. So Brooklyn's now 2-0 against New York this year, 117-112. They win, but the Knicks get the cover. San Antonio goes into Detroit. They blow out the Pistons 109-99. Spurs really needed that win after they were blown out the night before by Philadelphia. Still, DeMar DeRozan's not playing. LaMarcus Aldridge is going to get traded soon. But San Antonio opened up a 20-point lead going to the fourth. You see, fourth quarter they kind of gave up, but they still had a big enough advantage to win. Indiana lost at Denver, 121-106. Nuggets were up 9 going to the second half. Look at that. Indiana outscored them 35-22. So Indiana took a 4-point lead going to the fourth. Denver went on a 12 or 14-0 run to start the fourth, and that was it. It was ball game for the Pacers. And they hung with the Lakers Friday night, blew that game at the end, beat Phoenix, and then blew the Denver game. They were there and lost. So they hung with the Lakers and Nuggets, couldn't win those games, did beat Phoenix. Pacers still been terrible against the spread recently. Clippers going to Dallas, and they beat the Mavs. It's a playoff rematch, 109-99. So LA bounces back after their loss to New Orleans on Sunday. Phoenix takes care of Memphis, 122-99. The Suns, still, every single win this season they've covered. Every single one. That's an amazing stat right now. Lakers beat up the Warriors, 128-97. Second time in a few weeks that the Lakers have beat Golden State. This time they do it at Chase Center. Up 15 at the half. Golden State actually playing with no rest after they beat Utah the day before, 131-119. But look at this for the Warriors now. 5 of 6 they've lost. Can they turn it around? Houston, Memphis twice. I mean, Memphis isn't easy. Then you get Philly at home. At Sacramento, Atlanta, Chicago, should be able to win at least 2 of those 3. But the Warriors right now just, they've not been able to get anything going. Past this 3-game winning streak, it's the longest winning streak of the season. It's 3. So that's the NBA from last night. Let's look at tonight's NBA. And we have 7 games. First, Jazz and Celtics. And Boston seems to be kind of a sexy home underdog tonight. They've won 5 in a row at TD Garden. They beat the Clippers recently as a dog at TD Garden. And for the Jazz, they went on this huge run. Are you selling the Jazz now? They've lost 3 of 4. Gave up 131 to Golden State, 131 to Philly, but that was in overtime, 129 to New Orleans, 124 to the Heat. So the defense leaking a little bit, but they go on this trip where they lose to Golden State. So now you go from San Francisco to Boston. These 4, you got to grab these 4 if you're Utah. I'm not even saying 3-1. You got to go 4-0. You got to beat Boston, your favorite tonight. You got to beat Washington, Toronto, who's terrible right now, and Chicago before you get this big one against Brooklyn. And that's going to be a big measuring stick for the Jazz. So they get Boston tonight on the road. Oklahoma City and Chicago, the Billy Donovan Bowl up at the United Center, and the Bulls beat the Raptors back 2 nights ago, 118-95 to end a 2-game skid, their first win since the All-Star break. Last time the Bulls played the Thunder was way back in mid-January. Bulls were up 20-something in the second half, and Oklahoma City came back and won in overtime, 127-125, and Billy D's return to Oklahoma City. So now the Bulls playing with some revenge. The Thunder came back to beat Memphis 2 days ago after they lost to the Knicks the day before. And Oklahoma City on the road of late, 2-3, 2-4, 2-6, 2-6 the last 8. And actually for Oklahoma City, I'm not going to say manageable. Nothing's manageable for them. But this road trip, I mean, they went 3-1. That's a success. But Houston and Minnesota on a back-to-back, you got to win those games. Speaking of Houston, I don't remember the last time they won. No one does. The Rockets don't remember the last time they won. Let's go back, shall we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 straight. They've lost 16 straight games, the Rockets. They beat Memphis here on February 4th. They beat them, if I'm not mistaken, if my timeline's correct, they beat them before the Super Bowl. It's been that long since the Rockets last won a game. Oh, and by the way, they're not, well, they covered the Utah game because they were getting 19. I mean, shoot, to be able to cover 19 in the NBA, even to throw out 5 CBA players. But lost by 27 at home to the Celtics. It's not getting any easier. There's past, okay, fine. Detroit on the 19th, Oklahoma City on the 21st. I just said Oklahoma City should win at Houston, but these and maybe Toronto, depending on what happens. If they get their parts back, like Van Fleet and Siakam, if they get them back for that game, that's different. But I would say Houston has 1, 2, 3, 4 shots in the next 2 weeks to win a game. If not, I don't know when they're going to win a game again. Seriously. And how do you say that in the NBA? I don't know when. Atlanta's laying 9.5, which is effing insane. But look at what they've done on the road. Last time they covered on the road as a favorite, okay, mind you, as a favorite, was at Washington in late January. Lost to the Knicks, lost to Cleveland, lost to Oklahoma City, pushed against Orlando, hit this game winner against Toronto. So they're coming off a couple blowout wins at home, and this is a good time for Atlanta to get hot. They won 5 in a row, but to lay 9.5, damn, that's still a lot of points. Heat and the Cavaliers tonight, and the Heat, they are on fire. 10 of 11 they've won. And I mentioned this at the All-Star break, so I'll just say it again, that getting Orlando twice, Chicago, Cleveland, even Memphis, Indiana struggling, you got to win these games if you're the Heat. And they are winning these games. They did not cover the 2 against the Magic. They covered at Chicago. And they have not played Cleveland yet this season. They get Cleveland a few times now, so they're going to play the Cavs. And the Cavs actually have not been good against the spread of late. And you say, oh my, well, look, they had this little 4-game ATS streak. They covered here against Indiana before the All-Star break, but 0-2, 82 and 82 they've scored since the All-Star break. Knicks and Sixers, last time they played was at the Garden, way back beginning of the season. Sixers were laying 8.5, won by 20 back on December 26th. And Philly on fire. They've won 5 straight. Joel Embiid still out, but they've scored 127, 127, 134 since the All-Star break. It's pretty good. And the Knicks, off that tough loss to the Nets last night, so you go Nets and Sixers back-to-back. 4 straight overs for them. Off a loss, they've been good. See what Tibbs has done. 1, 2, 3. Let me count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight wins off a loss for the Knicks. Could be asking a lot tonight, but maybe you catch Philly off guard. Portland and New Orleans out west. C.J. McCollum expected to come back for the Blazers tonight, so that's a nice little boost. So Damian Lillard doesn't have to do everything. But the Blazers off this loss to Minnesota, they split these 2 games. Been a bit up and down. They haven't covered really, well, I mean, 2 ATS losses at home. They covered these 2 against Charlotte and Golden State. But they beat New Orleans earlier in the season. Right here, 126, 124 in New Orleans, getting 4. Now, let's see if I don't think I wrote this down on the notes today. Probably didn't, but that's fine. Do I have it? No, I don't have it. New Orleans has not been good as a road underdog. 3 and 10 is their last 13 overall on the road. And as a road underdog, 2 and 8 straight up their last 10. So I don't know how much I trust New Orleans, even as a short dog here. McCollum coming back. Now you got some more scoring punch for Portland. And the Pelicans off that loss to the Clippers. Off that win over the Clippers. So maybe now a bit of a letdown for New Orleans going to Portland. Lakers and Timberwolves tonight. Lakers off this. Now they're on the back-to-back. Beat up Golden State last night. Minnesota, last time they played 112-104 at Target Center in February, and they played way early in the season. 127-91 win for the Lakers. So a couple wins for the Lakers over the Wolves, which is the least surprising thing in the world. And Minnesota here, just getting 8. But again, they're on no rest of the Lakers. The Timberwolves on a 6-2, right? 6-2 overrun. And now they go play the Lakers and Suns twice. Oh, God. Good luck to them. So that's a look at the NBA. Quick look at the NHL for... Actually, you know what? Before we get to the NHL, let's do a free pick for the NBA. Now, gave out some winners for the free picks last week. Didn't have one yesterday, so we'll go to today. And if you don't know about our picks on VegasInsider.com, I'll tell you about it right now. That you can buy a handicapper selections daily picks, $29.95 per handicapper. As you see here, next to every handicapper, they have an amount of plays. So for $29.95, you get Alex Smart's 3 plays. You get Matt Fargo's 2 plays. You get Michael Black's 1 play. Whoever it is, you get that for the day. So you buy their pick or picks, $29.95 for the daily selections. Now down here are the guaranteed picks. Now what's the guaranteed pick? 1 selection, just 1. Pay and it wins. If it loses, you don't pay. Simple as that. So everyone, it's only 1 pick per day. The guaranteed pick, their best pick of the day, it's $39.95. Now, because you are a loyal watcher to the Daily Insider, or if it's your first time, we appreciate it. We're going to give you 1 guaranteed pick for free. Test it out, see how it goes. So we're going to look at one of our hotter handicappers in the NBA, and it's Jim Feist, legend in the business. Jim Feist has Chicago, Oklahoma City, guaranteed pick. Let's take a look and see what Jim has. Jim is going to lay the points with these Chicago Bulls, laying 5.5. As you see, Jim posted the pick this morning, came from WinBet, and has analysis. So you can read the analysis, and you can make a decision on which side you want to go. If you agree with Jim, take Chicago, or you disagree and want to take Oklahoma City, that's fine too. But here is his selection, and you get this. This is the guaranteed pick. This is what you would get for $39.95. And we're giving this away, this 1 pick away today for free. $39.95 for the guaranteed pick, and this one for the NBA. And that's Jim Feist, Chicago, laying 5.5 against Oklahoma City. Now let's take a quick look at the NHL. And we also have a free pick to give away for the NHL. Let's first take a quick glance at Monday. Flyers beat the Rangers in overtime 5-4. Vancouver wins at Ottawa 3-2. That would have been kind of a tough loss if you had the Canucks laying 160 and Ottawa came back and tied the game. This is the big hit from yesterday. Nashville plus 260 going to Tampa and beating the Lightning 4-1. So Nashville had been struggling, but they were a heavy dog there. Pittsburgh beats Boston 4-1. I want to look at the Bruins for a second. Let you look at the Bruins. This team right here, 1-4 the last 5. Look at that. 1 goal, shutout, 1 shutout. Not good for the Bruins. No bueno for the Bruins. Panthers were down 3-1 to the Blackhawks. They come back, 5 unanswered goals to beat Chicago 6-3. Panthers now 4-0 against Chicago this season. This Buffalo team is terrible. Washington shuts out Buffalo 6-0. I know the Sabres have injuries, but they're just not a good team when they're healthy. Montreal wins at Winnipeg 4-2. Calgary beats Edmonton 4-3, and Vegas over San Jose 2-1. So the favorites do very well last night in the NHL, except for Tampa Bay. Favorites rocked last night in the NHL. Let's look at Tuesday's NHL slate. You got the Bruins again facing the Penguins. Buffalo now goes to New Jersey, and the Devils laying 170. Devils have lost 4 straight. You trust them laying 170? Not too sure about that. Last time they played Buffalo at home, laying 150, they lost 4-1. They've actually struggled against Buffalo this season. Jersey's the one team that Buffalo's beaten. Islanders and Washington, the Barry Trotz Bowl, really good game there. And look at the Islanders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 straight wins for New York. Not bad considering they had this tough start here. So Trotzy's got them going atop the East. Carolina laying 240 at Detroit. My God. But the Hurricanes, they're rolling too. 2, 4, 6, 8 straight wins for Carolina. Last time they beat Detroit, 5-2, laying $3 back on March 4th. Split a pair against Detroit early on in the season. Arizona and Minnesota coming up later on. Tampa Bay's at Dallas, Stanley Cup rematch. Now the Lightning got to turn around to face the Stars. And Colorado faces Anaheim. And Colorado's laying a ton, 280. They've won 3 straight, allowed 2 goals the last 3 games. Now let's take a look at tonight's NHL pick. And we're going to look at the man who was featured in right up here. That's Matt Fargo, because he has been on fire. 9-1 his last 10. As you see here, the daily picks, $24.95 for the NHL. Guaranteed picks, $34.95. And we're going to go to Matt Fargo for today's free pick. Matt Fargo has the Dallas Tampa Bay selection, and he's going to take the Tampa Bay Lightning, laying 155 against Dallas on the road. Stanley Cup rematch, and he posted his pick this morning. So there is Matt Fargo's pick for Tuesday in the NHL. Remember, you can buy the guaranteed pick. If it wins, you pay. If it loses, you pay nothing. So that's the best part about the guaranteed pick. Just one pick. That's it. But if you want the daily picks, you can do that. And you get your selection. And that's $24.95 inside the NHL. And today I got a whole slew of picks from our handicappers. And you can check that out on our NHL by picks page. So that is the look at the NHL picks for today. Got some Champions League action coming up in a bit, and you can read that story there on our homepage. And again, the Daily Insider. You can find us every day at 1 o'clock here on VegasInsider.com or on the YouTube channel at Vegas Insider. And I can't stress it enough, the college basketball content that is on VegasInsider.com. It's top-notch. Trends, sleeper picks, props, all of it. We'll have videos throughout the week for best bets. We'll rate the first four games, the first 4 games of the first 4 teams, or the 4 teams escaping that. Those previews are up now. So you can find those. You can find brackets as well. Check them out at VegasInsider.com. I am Kevin Rogers. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll talk to you again on Wednesday for the Daily Insider right here on VegasInsider.com.